Member kwa baba Adkwart Studios nyame onhira so nyamreti na hwe Adkwart Studios. Mebusa se ho ti sen. Erade adum erade akwa me hoye. Wa hyase abraboro wa hyase. Mesi mekae wo saa o. Bosumi no apai enche na bosumi edi nkan ekọ na wie. On 31st by na sen ya o. Shawsa pomunsuo na gina wona so na osimu ntemu awudu yetie bibi afa mame a enam new force hunti obenya amane wo Ghana ha na yebetie ne nsem na wo ye Ghana ni a odi atoto ensema na mami ka se odwen se de mami odwen ana wo odoma oman Ghana se de na mami okan yenko ni enkotie
7 days imprisoned and unlawfully deported because I chose to speak up for the people of Ghana. My name is Shalimar Abbiusi and this is my story.
Shalimar Abbiusi, spokesperson of the new force.
Deportation as an affront to fundamental human rights.
Violate her rights. This is an ambush, right?
How terrible those conditions she suffered in custody.
The person must be released, but you keep the person for 7 days.
I went to Ghana for the very first time in 2017 to represent my country, Belgium, in an international beauty pageant. And I immediately fell in love with the country, the warm people, and the rich culture that Ghana has to offer. It wasn't until 2021 that I returned back to Ghana for holidays, and I fell in love all over again. It was when I was offered an opportunity to present a TV program that I decided to stay a little bit longer. But living in the country also revealed the hardship that was going on. The crashing economy, the despair on people's faces because of the inflation, the rising fuel prices, doom saw every day. People were in distress. And as a public figure, I do believe that we have to use our platform to create positive impact in society. And that is why I've always been involved in charitable projects and humanitarian work, because the beauty of humanity is not in being human, but in being humane. Even as a child, I always wanted to help people, and I was always very empathetic. During my stay in Ghana, I've been involved in many charitable projects such as safe road crossing initiatives, breast cancer awareness, training programs for young girls, and then the Akosombo Dam spillage. I gathered my team and we collected relief items, and we decided to go to Mepe to donate to the victims of the dam spillage. It was there that I encountered the people from the New Force movement. And they told me about their vision, which is empowerment of the youth, industrialization of the country, and better living circumstances for Ghanaians in general. I felt that our visions were aligned. After a couple meetings with the New Force movement, we decided that I would become the spokesperson. A few days after, the first video came out with me as the spokesperson. And that video was so impactful that it reached over 1 million views within 24 hours. The voice of one woman is so powerful that it woke up a whole nation. Not long after that first video came out, I got a call from immigration. They invited me to come to the headquarters and ask me some questions about my residency. I willingly went. The officers made false allegations about my resident permit. I've been present in the media and I never had any problems until that video came to their attention. They told me I had to stay in the cell overnight. I was thinking to myself, is this really happening? I had to give them all my belongings. They forcefully tried to take my jewelry, my phone. They brought me to the cell at immigration. So many people in that cell, men and women together from all kinds of nationalities. And I was sharing my mattress with a Vietnamese lady. Some people were sitting there for 9 months without legal representation, Without a court date, no hope for the future. The next morning, I was hopeful that I would get out. But then I was being transferred. I was asking them, where am I going to? And they didn't want to answer. We arrived at National Intelligence Bureau. They sat me in a room. I was waiting for hours. And then an inspector came and he told me I was under arrest. They would take me to my house to conduct a search, but they didn't even have a search warrant. My lawyer gave me the option to cooperate or to fight for my rights. And I decided to choose for my rights and to refuse the house search. They then took me back to the cells of NIB where I had to strip down, squat. I was being searched. I was being treated like an absolute criminal. I saw a document with my name on it and it said national emergency. What could I possibly have done? And it was also at that point that I knew this had nothing to do with my resident permit. I was given a prison outfit, one towel, one clean underwear. I was completely being stripped from my humanity. They took me to the cell, which was a horrible, big black bunker with a horrible smell. There was a stash of dirty mattresses. There was one other lady with me in the cell. She was an illiterate woman, and she didn't even know why she was there. She was in that cell for 4 months. No daylight, no fresh air, just the rotting smell of the cell. That night I cried, and I was so scared for what was about to come. The next morning, they took me back to my apartment. This time, they did have a search warrant. But again, they didn't want to follow the rules. The officers were intimidating me, yelling at me. Before my counsel and my independent witness could arrive to the location, they decided to just enter my apartment. I asked the inspector what they were looking for, and he replied that they were looking for something that I forged documents with. They didn't find anything, but they completely raided my place, and I was transferred back to the cells. My lawyer made a statement. It's been 48 hours. You cannot keep her any longer without any official charges. What they did then was so conniving. They took me, pushed me in a van, and told my lawyer to go and sit in another room. And I kept asking them, where are we going? And then I saw we arrived at court. They called me to the stand, and I decided once again to stand up for my rights. And I told the judge that I had a lawyer, and they intentionally kept me away from my counsel. But the judge then said that I would have to come back the next day with my counsel, and they would have to grant me a phone call, which they never did. The next morning, my lawyer was present. That was the first time I heard my charges officially. They charged me for forging documents to obtain a resident permit, and they wanted to investigate me for my activities in relationship with the New Force movement. When I heard my charges for the first time, I pleaded not guilty. The judge decided that I had to stay in the cell for 4 more days so they could conclude on their investigation. I ended up staying in the cell for a whole week. No visitation allowed. They constantly intimidated me, and I wasn't allowed to have one-on-one contact with my lawyer. And I really want to enable the critical thinking of the people here. I obtained this resident permit through an official immigration officer. I've been traveling in and outside of Ghana, going through multiple immigration checks with this same permit, and I never was questioned about it. This same permit got renewed by another immigration official. So my question is, who forged these documents to obtain the resident permit? Was it your own officials? They never could produce any evidence to the court. After a whole week of imprisonment, I was finally transferred to court. I couldn't believe my eyes when I arrived at the court. So many people were protesting, voicing out for my release. It was during that court hearing that I was finally granted bail. I was released on very strict conditions. My parents were visiting Ghana at that time. They were so worried for my safety. And finally, after a week, after being released on bail, we had a new court date. That court date changed my life. When I walked outside of the court building, there was an immigration officer who shook my hand. and told me, "Congratulations for winning the court case. We are revoking your residence permit. You're under arrest." They forcefully pushed me in a van. Everybody was furious because of this unjust treatment. I was being transferred back to a cell where I was kept until night. That same evening, I was deported back to Belgium. I wasn't allowed to take anything, nothing. This didn't break me. It inspired me to be the voice of the voiceless. Because if this is what they're doing to me, then how much more are Ghanaians and Africans suffering every single day at the hands of this flawed system? And I want to ask, if the legal system be overruled by the call of one single person, are we really living in a democracy? I hope that my story can be a testimony of resilience and inspire people to not give up, to not be a victim, but be a conqueror and a survivor.
Shalimar Abbiusi has secured a landmark victory at the Adkwart.
Sorry that Ghana treated you this way. May you forgive the nation. It's very painful. Mami asemi ene da matie mu ye pa. Ghana really sick. We sick. Yare o. Yare. Ka se Ghana yare ka bi. Se Ghana yare. Hey, Ghana under Akufo-Addo. Hey, asem we enya obi a waba o ma we mu. Oba ye no. Utie ni nsem a oka enye ni force kranti na oba yo. Na odi akwani aba se oba wo ma we mu no. Ofri Belgium. Nani aba beji Ghana ha. Ana ohun se ye ehunu amane. Enti kwan a wono broni no obefa so obeboa ye man aba. Hey, Chinese phone na Ghana ye sem bi old moya na arewo. Chinese phone mo na na mo se o say yensuo. Om de mo nchi won. Om de mo ma nchi won. Hey. Eradi anyway no machi mfeja mayishi ani o. Na ohwe ne ye pa. Utie maame ne nsem a oka. Chese oba ya na odi akwani aba ne adede na ne ho ni asem. Obeye spoke lady for New Force. Hey! Eni ase wo broni. Obi ba beji etumi na wo na abedi animu. Eni ebe kire so aba bibifo krom. Hey! Nti munya nsemone no. Munya nsemone. Ekwa amodi maami we fa so nti mo ya ade. Kwan ya modi maami we fa so no mo ya ade. Se ohwe maami no how they treated this lady, there was no human right. Na omu tumi kire se ye na tumi ne se ensem ebetumi amwada. They were treating this lady as a criminal. Wow. Adofo wo a wotie se Ghana ne ne tie. Aya MPP ne NDC ankoma so asem we mu dendenden. Sa kwan we hwe ye ma ani adehye won krofo kroso. Na eduru ba bia mo si wo mo entwiti yi outside. Wo de wa hwe kwan a won fa so a omo di maami fa mu. Ti say obi a wabokro no obi a wa ye bibia tia o man no onko kasama new force ntia ade adwenbone no ti da ben na mbeja adwenbone ma mo ho atomo da ben pa na manyofo no mo beja adwenbone ma mo ho atomo mami ba ya onam nkurase hwe ba bia onam nantie ya no ne na kwa bedi akokokohia yo abra na ono nso onya timama nkrofo bi omuhunu amane mama nyesem no enipa chese timma bi enimu muni abadaye moyam nhyehyem mu obia sikanoa na monse bomu a African money oga de chopam nyama no be so you dey chop am money nyama no obi a ono wa ba wo beboa wo man no wanya abadaye hwe ba bi ona broni o na omekasa ma new force a waka allergy bisiagu na nunti modi obi ababa wa afa yaw mu se hwe ba bi a mode ne kohye enti se mo hwe we ya na mo amoye we no e ka mo se because wakasa ma new force aradi enkosi da ben enda yeni ankase yebeti ehu ase enkosi da ben eduru ba bi a wodwene a wonti ase ya ho kire ni nyina ne se ya nyankrofo atimodinfo awudifo bi a omo ye peseminkum nya atimodinfo na omo nwene nipa ho nanka obi ono wode ato ne nwoso se okakura ase na waboa wo man wo man a ya di ahye wonsa wantumi anya ho hwe no se ya chiwa ya de mami na musa obi a wadi awuo mo wie sika mo bo man kro no ya nchemo mo di o man yawu enso mo de atumi no ekovam lady we are sorry anye nyina na tisa o Ghana form rante ni bi yade se omo ekobo dompim ewo court na chi enye den ya ma mi be hu se nipa bi nso wo ma we mu omo edo no the nation is sick and I don't know how we are going to treat this sickness. I don't know. Unless we accept that we're sick, this contagious disease cannot be treated. So serious. Yeah, the two mission one side, they are so wicked. Too many benya besha one side, ya buy na basa, ya buy na ba, ya sheni penny. Na ya wosa hyena no na chese adan enti munni nipa dwen wo mutirimu kakra wakasa ma new force nti the boni a waye nyina ne se wakasa ma new force oni new force with the same vision say new force edo new force vision is nipa ehuna mane no new force amani. My reason I talk about new force every day is that have compassion for the needy. And that's my reason of living. She said, "Muni nipa nwadwen nipa Edu baby on na wo hwe ye ni ye pa wo hwe ye ni ye bi a ye twi ho eye ye ho se ya o ye ni ankasa ya dane nkakapa ne ye keke ye ho crabolism akoto ne ye omo bi ankonanim ti akoto gugra mu a na no nyankon fro no obetwe na hwe form sesi a that's wickedness. Madam, will you please from your heart forgive this nation? Please, will you from your heart forgive this nation? We have sinned against you and against our Creator. Eye bonikasiye pa ya ye. So mine. Ade mehwe ade nam sno ma menya tam na mentie ma me asem. Amenya tam na mentie. Se ma me aba ha se waba Ghana ko oba Ghana me nani agye o ma abei. Ma hwe ya adako eno na krofo so mbeka no. Enye obi na eka o. Enye obi na eka ne ye no ana de beba. Me see bentu ya se dwom ra me sachira ye say na sa dwom we de se de ada no ye no se stone boy na boy a me bo mo de atie nwum no nsem no bi ensem wom pa abanso wom wonim se ya ne ka se aba ye de ball tachi no eno ane de bobo ba ha da no mo adwen on sa ba no mo yi ato atwene ya de ball tachi no ya no mka sa ayira we are da hot mo cheo menye wadwen sa ayira e da hot cheo mo ya de tumi mamu enfie naipe obeka se wiase nyina no ahoden wo ne kura wo ya boka sa we da ho jan Nyankopon ma kwan se wo de bra na behwe enipa bi so se de be ya omo sabe ko omo ano benya ba bi ada na ba be kura gina nipa ko na mo sa kan nipa gu ammenam ya tiam se ye hura ma ne wo so omumi amano sana Ghana manyafo ne yo na story bi wa se ma men kasa asem we na ma try se ma hunu kai bi a sa mra ye to aba no na omo kire se isi no de people si bi ko ba bi a omo ko hye no unim se NDC fo ababontin se MPP for the sika agumu a omo de dwane afiri omawe you are be ya kire mo you building on mind with hatred na ye pese ye ni aho ne ye promote ye party ne ye promote ye nko ba bia o now the NDC for ASC MPP they did the same thing and what was the outcome and see ye gina ba bia ye gina ya o because ultimately I'm building on mind with this hatred nisa ntimodin a mondwene nipa ho sika modi awurawura mpase yanchi won ma mi megira nkasa ma new force a hwede ade na ifam why because onya Ghana ni na mo amochiri ma mi no are you better off there na mode che ma mi we ono ye broni osi Ghana ha wakoba bi a wo nkoda onim Ghana how crossing wo onim Ghana mane crossing wo munya trimodin ne awudi sew no na ye build o man say ayanku anim da o enti wo ye kase kwakire obi natural okwachiri nipa no ababie ni mu a ye be you adi o motete office na semone nko na mudi semone nko semone ensem se dia ensantwofo ni hunu nka omo hunu nka mami kafra na okra ti kafra si okay sorry and forgive Ghana. We sin against you and against our Creator. This is not a human right. Mo ne hwe na de o hwe no nyaba free mu na bra bonte won so kasabi sofo kasabi na kasabi ka bibi no man ya jinsa mododo mo ene hwe ni tie bye bye.